has really fought for this medal. Her husband Brett and her 3 daughters are on the finish line. They are going to welcome her home. And oh, another fall there, but she is in the finishing straight. Come on, Jenna, you have to get to the finish, and no other athletes can help her. The athlete has to go over on their own.
She will take every ounce in her body and crawl over the finish line. Comrades Marathon qualified. That is the beautiful picture of the Comrades Marathon. Jenna Chellenor close to the finish line. Beautiful.
So I'm a Durban girl. I was born here. I've grown up here and spent my whole life here. I went to Durban Girls College and I absolutely loved my school. I have 2 brothers, 2 older brothers. They tortured me a lot, but I give them credit for the strength that I've got. I believe I grew up being tortured and trying to keep up with them. They were very competitive. They were 5 and 7 years older than me, and anything they did, I did. From judo to cricket. Well, I thought I did cricket, but I was usually just the wickets in the bin. But yeah, they nurtured me and made me strong. And when people ask, where did you get your strength from? I guess I got it from my brothers. I've always loved sport. Any sport, I would give it a go and try. I did even try ballet, but I was a bit of an elephant ballerina. I wouldn't say I was any good at that, but I still gave it a try. At Girls College, I was definitely a sporting all-rounder. You name it, I did it. I loved all sport. I never specialized in running as such. I never specialized in any specific sport. I did it all. So my running fitness came from all the other sports I did. I never had a coach or was coached, but I knew I loved running. I loved how it made me feel, and the seed for my passion for running was definitely planted at school. I did athletics and I did cross country throughout school, and I think I lost one race, one cross country race in which I took the wrong turn through my schooling career. I loved running. Towards the end of school, when you have to choose what you want to do, I considered going to America and trying to get a scholarship for running. And then I was in 2 minds. I didn't know if I wanted to make running my whole life. So I stayed in Durban and studied a B.Ed foundation phase degree. Qualified as a teacher, and I took a bit of a break from running then. Did the normal student thing, had a good jaw, ran socially, met my husband. I did also do surf lifesaving. In 1998, when I was 16, started school, I went to World Lifesaving Champs, and that's when I met Brett, my husband. And we got together for a little bit, and then he dumped me. And for a few years, and then he's lucky I took him back, and I guess the rest is history. We have 3 beautiful daughters now, Nicolette, who's 19, Riley, who's 17, and Teo, who's 11, and they definitely keep us on our toes. But going back to studying, it was only really after my first child I started to run sort of some PBs and got a coach and thought, okay, well, let me see where I can go. And then I ran a PB and fell pregnant with my second child. So the standing joke is every time I ran a PB, they would say, oh, don't fall pregnant. And then after my 2 children, which I had 24 months apart, I started to get more into my running. I loved it, but I was also teaching at the same time and doing photography. I'm a self-taught photographer. I started up my own little studio at home. I did a lot of newborn photo shoots, which I absolutely loved. In the same time, I was begging for a 3rd child. I had to beg for 5 years to get my 3rd child. Brett just kept saying, play with the newborn babies in your photo shoots. And then I got to a point in my career, I was juggling a lot of balls. So we sat down and chatted about it, my husband and I, and we decided to roll the dice, take a risk, because, I mean, coming from a teaching salary, which is obviously not the biggest, but it's stable. I decided to stop teaching. Photography is also what you put in with what you get out. So you don't know if you're going to get the same amount of money every month. And running, I didn't know if I was going to make it work, but I really wanted to try. My mother and my brother had said to me, you're risking a lot, you're putting your family's life and their future in your hands by leaving teaching. But I really believed that this was where I wanted to be. I really wanted to give running a full go. And obviously I'm a mum of two then. I had my third later. It's difficult. I'm not just eat, sleep and training. And then I was working 2 jobs, raising 2 little girls. So I needed to put more effort into my running. So that's where we decided it was time to take a risk and give it a go. And I've loved it so much. It's been tough at times, I won't lie. And there's been ups and downs and injuries along the way, but it's been an incredible journey. So also one of my decisions to stop teaching was, when you're a teacher, you've got flexibility, but you miss out on a lot too. I would start teaching before my kids went to school, so I wanted to be able to drop my kids at school. I wanted to be able to fetch my kids from school and hear about their day. I wanted to go to their school concerts if they had them, or their sports in the afternoon. One thing I've always done with my running and my life is put my children first. My running has always fitted into our lifestyle and to what the kids needed to do. I'd wake up super early in the morning before the kids even woke up to do my running. I would get home, get them ready for school, take them to school, then I would carry on with my training and that, and fit it around their life. The kids in my life have always come first, and they always will come first. Running is my passion, my love, and my career, but they're my family, and it's working, and I love it. So in around 2012, I had the awesome opportunity to go to the EnduroCAD camp. This is a camp where they invite a whole bunch of athletes that they think are up and coming. I was quite old there for the athletes that they were actually bringing in, but they gave me the opportunity, and this really instilled a lot of belief in me. I met my coach there, and I only started with him probably about 6 months later after that camp. I made the camp, the group, the EnduroCAD group, which was really something super special. We had to go through a lot of screening there. We had to do run tests, track tests, speed tests, cross-country tests, as well as mental tests, because at the end of the day, as a runner, you have to be mentally strong enough to go the distance. If you're not mentally strong enough, you can have as much talent as you want, but if your mind blows or gives up on you, it's not going to take you to the finish line. So it was quite an eye-opener, and it was a funny sort of season because it really gave me a bit of belief. And my coach often says to me, Jen, do you remember the first time you saw me at EnduroCAD and we chatted? If I told you were going to achieve everything you've achieved now, what would you have done? And I said I would have probably laughed at you because I dreamed big. I always had things in my heart, but I never 100% believed that Jenna, could actually get there and actually do those things. So it really opened my eyes. Just having a couple of people believe in me gave me the belief in myself to, hey, maybe I can actually do this. Maybe this is something that anyone can do that puts their mind to it. But yeah, you have to be prepared to work hard. Talent only goes so far. So yeah, that was 10 years ago, and I met my coach, and I was training, and I was going to go to World Half Marathon Champs representing South Africa for the first time. It was in Copenhagen in Denmark. And it was a couple of weeks before, and I reached out to Coach Ernie and said to him, listen, I need help, just feeling like I'm burning myself out going to this race. And he stepped in with a couple of weeks to go. I went to Denmark to World Half Marathon Champs and ran a big personal best time by 2 minutes. I ran a 1:14, and it was a great run and an incredible experience. My first time putting on the green and gold, something, to be honest, I always dreamed about, but can't say I really believed I'd get there. And that definitely for me was a big sort of eye-opener. You can do this, Jen, sure, put your head down, put your mind to it, let's see where else I can go. After I came back from World Half Marathon Champs, I was super fired up and super excited to see where this journey could take me. Got knuckled back into training. I raced 10s and 21s then. I felt like my children weren't old enough for me to move to the marathons and the ultra. I just felt that my little one, being under 2 years, just needed me more. I couldn't be running for 3 hours on a weekend, doing a long run, and then coming home, and I was too tired to play with her or carry her. So in my head, I always said when she was 2, I'd move up to the marathon. So I loved the 10s and 21s and had a great time. running them. And then when she turned 2, well, it was time to move up to the marathon. I started training for a marathon, and I did my debut in Mossel Bay, which I thought initially was a flat marathon. It ended up being a mountainous marathon. And I woke up on the morning of the race to torrential rain, and it felt like the hotel was going to be blown over. So that's been my sort of philosophy. Like when the weather's bad, I'll always go out and run, because you don't know what the weather's going to be like on race day. So if you've practiced it during training, you wake up on race day and, well, you've done it, so off you go. Obviously, it's not ideal. You're not going to run the fastest time. But I had a great first marathon. I had Alana Meyer and my coach, Ernie, there supporting me on the route, which was so special. I ran a 2:41 first marathon. And then I started training further for that, for marathons. I ran quite a few international marathons and got to travel the world doing the thing I love, my sport. And I've always said running takes you places, opens doors, and makes you so many friends. And it really has in my life. I would never have gone to the places I've gone to if it wasn't for running. And I often tell my children that. And open the doors for yourself. Give yourself the opportunity to go places. One of the places that I went was Japan. It was for Nagoya Women's Marathon. It's the largest women's marathon in the world, and it was a sensational experience. To me, I would never really have thought of going to Japan. It just wasn't really a place I had on my bucket list, but I'm so glad that I went there and chose that marathon. It was just that the Japanese just put you on a huge pedestal as a runner. You feel like the queen. And they have so many amazing runners. They treat you like royalty, and it was incredible to run with just a whole field of its sensational runners. Well, there was 22,000 female runners running in that marathon, and I think there was over 200 sub-3 hour finishes. So if you know running and how hard that sub-3 hour for a marathon is, you'll realize how big that is for a women's marathon. So in Nagoya Women's Marathon, I qualified for the Rio Olympics. I ran a 2 hours 37. It's a lot faster now, the times that you got to run, but then that was Olympic qualifier. So that was another huge sort of feather in my little heart, or my cap, as you want to put it, and just instilled a little bit more belief in myself. So in 2017, I trained the whole of December, which, to be honest, is very hard. When everyone's sitting on the beach, having cocktails and enjoying the December festivities, I was training for Dubai Marathon in January. But it's what I wanted to do, so it was fine. I went to Dubai Marathon in absolutely great shape. I'd had a brilliant lead up, a perfect build, no injuries, and I was in great shape. Went to Dubai. We were staying in a beautiful hotel. The night before the race, I looked at the menu in the restaurant, and it was a fish menu. I decided I didn't want to eat fish the night before I was going to race the marathon, so I sent my husband into town to try and look for a chicken salad. And back in 2017, we didn't have Starbucks in South Africa, so I got him to get me a Starbucks chicken salad, thinking, well, that's all fine. Didn't realize Starbucks was a bit of a takeaway kind of thing. And he came back, gave it to me, it seemed fine, ate the chicken salad the next morning, woke up feeling very clammy and sweaty, and I thought it was just Dubai, it's really hot there. What do? You're not feeling great, but you've woken up for this international marathon. So I went, warmed up and lined up, but I really did not feel myself. Started running, and 12 Ks into the run started vomiting. Carried on running, pulled off to do vomits, came back on the road at 25 Ks. There was an ambulance, and I obviously looked horrendous, that they pulled me off the course, and that was the end of my international marathon. I went back to South Africa with my tail between my legs, because I planned this amazing race and I was fit, and now I got sick and I must have had food poisoning. But it's a hard blow. And I came back to South Africa and decided, well, there was a 25K race. It's called the PDAC. It's a downhill race. So it's not one I've often done. I just feel like it's a bit of an injury race, because if you're racing it hard and you're pounding down the hill, it's not always a good thing. But I was determined to show everyone how fit I actually was. And I just got sick, and it was bad luck. So I went and ran this PDAC 25K. broke the record, got carried away, ran really fast and was super proud of myself. Felt my foot was a bit sore, but didn't think too much of it. And a couple of weeks after that, I had an MRI and realized I'd got a stress fracture, a stress reaction in my foot. So a stress reaction precedes a stress fracture. So my doctors took me off running for a full 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. I wasn't able to run a step. Just before that, we decided that I was going to make my debut at the Two Oceans Ultra, the 56K in Cape Town. But now this had happened. So I decided to convert everything that I did on land into the pool, aqua jogging. That was something else. To convert every speed session that you would do on the track and put it into the pool, that was a mighty challenge. I did it, and then I had 3 weeks before, when I was allowed to run, I had 3 weeks before the Two Oceans Ultra. So I converted everything I did on land into the pool. So whatever track session or speed session I had, I would do it in the pool, aqua jogging. People looked at me like I was crazy, but that was okay. Even my long runs, where if I had a 2.5 hour to 3 hour long run, I would do it running up and down the pool. My pool running partner at the time, Stephen, had to join in, and just for some moral support and company, and it was great to have him there. When I was allowed to go back on the land, I felt like an eloping antelope. I felt like I had absolutely zero rhythm. It was quite mind-blowing. How was I going to run this ultra marathon when I didn't even feel like I could run? So there was another race, a Stella 25K local Durban race. I went to run that. I thought, I'll be fine, I'll run it. Everyone ran away from me. I ended up coming in so angry with myself, but I had to run a long run. So my 25K race was added on. There was an extra 10Ks added onto that afterwards. My coach gives me 30 seconds to go through the finish line and then carry on running. So I did that. And as I went through the finish line, Brett cycled up next to me, and I didn't throw my toys out the cart. I threw my toys at him to the fact that he eventually rode away from me and let me have my little tantrum. I just said to him, how am I going to run 56 kilometers when I could barely run 25 kilometers? It felt like the biggest challenge, like most impossible challenge. But anyway, he let me have my tantrum. I gathered myself, put on my big girl panties and finished that long run. Carried on training for a few more weeks. Things started to fall into place and thought, oh, well, do you know what? I'm going to go make my debut at Two Oceans. I've waited so long. I'm dying to run this beautiful race. And went to Two Oceans. Didn't think anything of it. I don't really know what I was hoping for. I think I was just hoping to enjoy the race, to love it. I didn't know what my shape really was because I'd spent 4 to 5 weeks in the pool. But yeah, I went to Two Oceans. It was on the start line with amazing runners, and just started, ran my own race, and at 20 Ks, I found myself in second position. That was quite surreal for me. I had never expected something like that, but I was running my race plan and thought, oh well, I'm just following my race plan. What that gives me. There was a Belarusian girl who was in front of me. She was a fair distance in front of me, so I just carried on my pace. Further along the line, my coach was standing there, and sometimes he runs out of things to say, and he had run out of things to say, and he shouted to me, "Stop messing around!" And I had a good laugh, and the guy on the bicycle said to me, like, "Gosh, who's that?" And I just had a laugh, like he just ran out of things to say, and it was a sense of humor. I definitely wasn't messing around. Anyway, I finished that Two Oceans in second, first South African, and absolutely loved the ultramarathon. And that was when the bug for ultramarathons bit. After that, I went to World Athletics Champs, and that was in London. And that, I must admit, is one of my career highlights. To be in the same hotel as the likes of Usain Bolt, Mo Farah, to be in the same team as Caster Semenya, Wade van Niekerk, just was incredible. I ran the marathon there in London, then I got to be part of the whole World Athletics. I watched all the different athletes race, Usain Bolt, Mo Farah, Emma Coburn. I've always loved Emma Coburn. I missed a photo with Emma Coburn. I got photos with everyone except Emma Coburn because my friend Matthew made me go down and get him a hot dog while he was sitting in the stands. And when I came back up with his hot dog, he had a photo with Emma and she had gone and left. So I missed the photos. Every birthday, he posts a photo of him with Emma. Just to tell me that he had the photo with Emma Coburn and I didn't. After that, I decided to see how I could do in the ultramarathons. I hadn't stepped up to ultramarathons yet. But in saying that, there's been a lot of ups and downs along the journey. It hasn't just been smooth sailing. I've had a lot of injuries to get through. I've had stress fractures. Yeah, you name it, I've had it. And it's just part of the journey. It's part of an athlete's life. And they say it's easy to celebrate the victories, but it's how you overcome the difficulties that defines you as an athlete. And I think that's so true. It's so easy when things are going right. And it's easy to put your arms up and celebrate the victories because you're on a high. But when you pick yourself up from rock bottom and get back up to where you want to be, that is a huge victory in my eyes. So after that ultramarathon in 2 Oceans, the bug had bitten. I just fell in love with the ultramarathon and knew this was where I wanted to go. Decided to train for 2018 and see where I could go back, if I could go back to 2 Oceans and give it my all and maybe better my position. I was in great shape. I trained really hard. I honestly think I was in one of the best shapes of my life. Went to Cape Town, and it was during the Cape Town was having a drought then and a lot of water issues. And I think, I was just unlucky with the water. Obviously picked up a bug from the water, ran to Oceans, and I actually collapsed at the top of Chapman's Peak. I remember a friend coming past me going up Chapman's Peak, and he said I sounded horrific. I was breathing so badly. I was swerving along the road. My coach was at the top, and I knew he was at the top of Chapman's, and I got there and then collapsed. I spent a couple of hours in an ambulance, and DNF, didn't finish that race. It was a hard blow. I'd been in such good shape, but such as sport and things like this happen. So came back to Durban, picked myself up, started training for Comrades that year. I decided I'd make my debut in Comrades, and then sadly picked up a stress fracture. So that was my Comrades debut dream for 2018 out. And then in September that year, my dad tragically passed away. My dad was like my hero. He was a person who's been by my side my whole life, supported me, yet never pushed me, but always encouraged me. And that was huge for me. You always know your parents will die one day, or you'll outlive your parents, but you never actually comprehend that they'll die. So that was hard. I took it really hard and took a long time to sort of get back on my feet after that. But I did. I got back on my feet, and I went back in 2019 to run 2 Oceans, had a beautiful race, absolutely loved it. And then in 2019, finally made my debut in the Comrades Marathon, a race. Being a Durban girl, it's all we know here. Everyone talks about Comrades. You can run for South Africa, you can run any race internationally, but people stop the conversation after you say you haven't run Comrades. So a standing joke was, when I run Comrades, I'll finally be a real runner. So in 2019, I dedicated my Comrades to my late dad. I stood on that start line, looked up at him just before the race was about to start, and I said, "I'm ready, Dad, watch me from above." And that race was just such a special race. If I say I loved every single step of it, I truly loved every step of it. Okay, maybe not the last few steps, those were hard. And my legs are always so shot by the end. But it was a great debut. I came 6th that year, got my first gold medal in Comrades, and it still gives me goosebumps to think about it. I can remember Bruce Ford, I was shouting on the side of the road as I was going up Polly Shorts, and he was like, "Shix, you number 6, do you want some lemon twist?" It was so funny. He's been a great mentor, and he was a huge role model, and he was one of my sporting heroes. I remember being 10 years old watching him win the Comrades, thinking one day I want to run that race. So to finally run it and have Bruce by my side as a friend and mentor is super special. After 2019, Comrades, obviously we have lots of little races in between, and I love doing all the little races, local races. 2020 COVID hit and the world stopped. We went into lockdown just before Two Oceans, so it was all systems go. I trained so hard on my treadmill, thinking I was going to be running Two Oceans. I mean, I converted everything that I would do on the road, speed, long runs, onto a treadmill, and I think it's as mind-numbing as running in the pool. But I did it. You do what you've got to do. I even tore my hamstring on the treadmill because trying to keep up with that belt is a bit tough. Then COVID happened, the world shut down, races cancelled. It was a really, really tough 2 years for all athletes, for all people. Everyone struggled in COVID. We don't really need to go through that. Everyone knows what COVID was all about. And then skip forward to 2022. We finally got to line up for that Comrades again. It was a super special race to finally get onto that start line. It was a down run, so I hadn't ever done one. They say you have to run an up and a down to be a true Comrades runner, to get your back-to-back. Ran that race. So in 2021, going back a little bit, I got COVID. We now know that certain DNAs don't respond well to COVID. I really got hit bad. I mean, I wasn't in hospital or that, but I suffered badly with COVID and I just couldn't get going. So for about 3 months after that, I really had to fight my body to get going, and it took a long time. But I seemed to get through it, so I thought, and trained, but I was never really myself. I couldn't do the work that I normally did. It was almost like I was putting a plaster over myself the whole time, just to get through sessions, to get through training, and just to get to that Comrades start line. I didn't realize it then, but I do now. I think I really wasn't well training that year. Anyway, we got to the start line, was ready for this race, went and ran it, and we all know how that went. It was going amazing until sort of 65 Ks. I felt really strong and I was enjoying it, loving the crowd, the sensational Comrades, roads filled with people. And then at about 65 Ks, I went from hero to zero. And normally in an ultramarathon or races, you don't go from hero to zero. You sort of get tired and fatigued over time. But I went from perfect to terrible. And the last 25 kilometers was an absolute sufferfest. Just putting one foot in front of another was really tough. I think that's all my body, after having been sick with COVID, and the vaccines didn't do well for me. My body it had nothing left in it. And I ended up collapsing just about, 500 meters before the finish line in the tunnel. There was a bit of water and I think I slipped on it, and that was just my legs done.
Oh, wonderful scenes here. This is what Comrades Marathon is all about. You can see the zeal, the fire, the power in her might. She will try and claw herself to that line. She is up and the husband is there. They're all in ecstatic. The atmosphere in the stadium is absolutely magic. As the crowd roars, they can see the picture.
Managed to get up and get to the grass, and I remember saying to myself, just go slowly, don't fall. And then as I was approaching the actual finish line, I think I said to myself, you've made it. And I went down like a sack of potatoes. And then my legs just couldn't get up. It was actually quite terrifying when your mind is 100% there, because it can also not be there. Like you can run an ultramarathon and you can be delusional. But my mind was 100% there. I knew exactly what I was doing, but my quads wouldn't work. So every time I tried to get up, I would just fall back down. Eventually, someone Ali came over to help me, and he put his hand out, and another guy said, no, don't do that. I'm thankful for that guy, because the rules are that you're not allowed to be carried over the line. You are allowed to be assisted up, and all I wanted Ali to do was assist me to my feet, and then I was going to go on my own. But anyway, regardless of what happened, I crawled over that finish line, and that is another huge career highlight, just to have got to the end of that race. The Challenor crawl kind of made me popular with my teenagers. It was trending on a lot of social media, and you know, these millennial children are all about social media and their cell phones. So yeah, one pretended to be me and got a whole bunch of likes. That was quite funny. But yeah, that was a huge moment for me. But yeah, a lot happened after that. So after Comrades, yeah, there's a lot of highs. I'd come fourth. It was incredible, but my body didn't feel right. And obviously we take 10 days to 2 weeks off, and I did that. And then when I tried to start running again, I realized that I was sick. I really wasn't well. I just couldn't even run, and that's when this next journey began.